How's it going, guys? It's Joriax, and today, guys, I've got another video for you guys, and it's about flat earth believers versus scientists, and whether you believe the earth is flat or not, it's up to you. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn bell notifications on. Alright, guys, let's get right into the video.
No more, no more. I wanna but I'm broken hearted. Cry, but I like to party. Touch, but I got nobody here on my own. I wanna but I'm broken hearted.
One on my right sphere. If you think that is the shape of the earth, point to it now. If you think the other model is the shape of the earth, point to it now.
First off, guys, there has been scientific evidence that the earth is actually round. I don't know what planet these guys are on, but it's definitely not Earth.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
What do you think the shape of the earth is?
I don't think. I know for a fact it's a globe.
The earth is flat.
It's like we have this picture of reality that's a big puzzle piece, and then one of those pieces just wasn't fitting.
I'm always open to having a discussion with someone who is holding a wrong belief like this.
Are you willing to change your mind on this?
I'm not. The evidence is so much.
Nobody wants to be a flat earther, but if you showed me incontrovertible evidence, I would definitely go back. Who wants the ridicule?
First off, mate, there has been heaps of incontrovertible evidence. It is actually stupid. Like, I don't know what these, like I don't know where these guys are getting their information from. He doesn't know what he's talking about, obviously.
I'm Jim Underdown, Executive Director of the Center for Inquiry West in Los Angeles and the Chair of the CFI Investigations Group.
I'm Spencer Marks, one of the senior members of the CFI Investigations Group, Science Advocate.
I am Marina Yeri. I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm with the University of Irvine.
I am Wendell Walton. I'm a Chief Learning Officer for a young startup.
I'm Shelley Lewis. I'm a graduate of West Point, critical thinker, and jumped out of airplanes.
My name is Dan Glattman. I work as Dan the Waterman in the drinking water filtration industry, and I'm a truth seeker.
I get my flat earthers on the left and my globe earthers on the right. Only step forward if this is true for you. I believe the earth was created by a higher power.
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years, so the Bible is a flat earth book. You have to take it literally. Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges, that's just not some fancy story. That's a simile. It is like.
Right, absolutely. And in Isaiah it talks about too, and I'm a Christian, he who sits upon the circle of the earth. There's a difference between a circle and a ball.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the original Hebrew, it means disc. There's over 200 scriptures in the Bible that point to a flat earth.
So this notion that you need God or some higher power to create the earth or the universe is very old. And was initially posited by people of a pre-scientific age. Since then, we have learned quite a bit about the universe coming into existence, when that happened. Modern humans don't get their cosmology, they don't get their physics, they don't get their knowledge of the universe from the Bible or any ancient text.
It's sort of like the God of the gaps. Once, people used to believe that lightning was God's wrath and throwing these lightning bolts, but once we understood it was a natural process, God shrank a little bit more because now we couldn't attribute those lightning bolts to God. We had to attribute that to the real science. The other thing, the point about the Bible specifically for me is, why is that one particular text the correct one? You choose to believe that, and that's fine, but there's so many other writings and so many other books, so why weren't they correct? Why is just the Bible correct?
Well, what you'll find in a lot of these ancient religions is they're all flat earth religions.
Guys, just take a look how this lady speaks. Like, she just thinks like she's so right, and like she's got some evidence or something. Like, really? Like, jeez, I can't stand her. She's like, she doesn't know what she's talking about at all.
Trying to explain phenomena happen in nature by holy books. Those are religious books. Those are not books of science. And it is wrong to infer or deduct scientific readings out of those books.
My name is Wendell. I am a logical, biblically based, and scientific flat earther.
Guys, did he just say logical? Oh god, I don't know where this guy is getting all his information, and he calls himself logical, and he gets all his information from, like, the Bible? Seriously, that is not logical at all, mate, at all.
Didn't add up down there. So we've gone back probably a dozen times, and I can guarantee you that there is no curvature over distance.
The internet has played an important role in confirming my view of this topic.
That's the problem.
Well, we have the advantage of information today that's outside of channels 2, 4, and 7 and the few networks that are corporately owned. It's pretty easy to say YouTube isn't research, but when you spend enough time, you're picking up quite a bit. And with the discussion groups, panels, we've gone against opposition. We've opposed ourselves. Surprisingly enough, flat Earth is its own worst enemy. So it's not that easy for us to come to consensus. And we find that consensus is orchestrated and not actually scientific in any way.
You know, my grandfather used to tell me growing up, never believe anything you read in the newspaper, right? He told that to me. Now, with the age of the internet, it's like, you know, how much of this misinformation are you getting there? And when you have like eyewitnesses taking video of something, you do have to take everything with a grain of salt. That's why, because of my, my multimedia background, I knew that all that stuff could be faked. You know, take it into Photoshop, take it into After Effects.
Okay, this is at the core of the issue of why there are so many flat earth believers out there right now. The problem is the information from someone who decides to start a website or produce a YouTube video is not reliable. When I have a toothache, I go to a dentist. When my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. When you have questions about cosmology, you should go to an astrophysicist, you should go to a physicist, you should go to people who have spent years and years studying these ideas.
Absolutely correct. You shouldn't just be watching, you know, YouTube videos to find out information, because generally, like, a lot of the time, they're not all, like all the information they give in the YouTube videos, they're not all, like, reputable. So you're better off going to, as he said, a physicist or a astrophysicist or something around, you know, that has that, like, type of field.
Which is through the Freedom of Information Act. And would you agree that NASA documents, if they're on display, that we should be able to go and research inside there?
NASA is not proving that the Earth is flat.
Well, they say it in 14 of the documents.
You should read what NASA says, and you should listen to what
I
NASA
would
says.
love to see your NASA evidence that the Earth is
It's
flat.
only their contractory issues
Okay,
that
let's
bring
see.
us here.
We're all familiar with the Earthrise photo, right? The Earth is rising over the moon. We're all familiar with it. That's a NASA. You can go out to NASA's site. You can download the original, right?
I already know what you're going to ask.
So you bring up the luminance on it, and you can see where it's cut out and pasted there.
They're showing us doctored images that are clearly doctored. The blue marble is a very famous image from 1972. When you talk to the artist from NASA, his name is Robert Simmons, he talks about exactly how it was created from data, and it's not a photograph whatsoever. He added clouds.
Let me explain.
He added
Hold
a
on.
highlight of the sun.
If you take, you know, on your phone, most phones have that panoramic image. When you do that, you're taking a series of pictures, and the phone cleverly stitches that
I'm just
together.
saying how it's
Hold on.
presented. It's
Hold on.
presented as a real
So when
photograph.
NASA takes real photos and they either clean them up for color or they stitch them together so it's one large image, it doesn't mean they're CGI.
You're talking about composites. I'm what you call a globe denier. You could even get me into a virtual construct if I can't find the borders myself.
What shape would you say you think the Earth is?
It appears to me to be a stationary plane, as opposed to the vastness of infinity of space. I would find it to be an ice plane where we have a localized sun and our environment thrives there. You know, these particular people have misled us on television. This is a brilliant opportunity to speak. We've been suppressed, censored by mainstream media. Alternative media is just a thing of beauty for me.
I view the other side as uneducated.
I'm running.
They think we are
I'm
uneducated.
running for this.
Wow, the so-called flat earthers think the scientists are uneducated, and they're the ones that have got foolproof evidence. These guys really need to check their facts. Like, seriously, they really need to.
We tend to be exploring in the field with physical properties, not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it. I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that it was on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous, and they're pushing a narrative, right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet, or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation campaign?
I don't think you guys are uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated.
I think the problem with what I've seen in the flat earth crowd is that it's not that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their belief system.
I think that you're very well educated as well as you are, Jim.
Certainly Ali is. He's probably got the best education of all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too. But more and more professionals are coming on board. They're starting to question their reality. So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth wherever that may lead you, then people end up becoming flat earthers.
What are you hoping to get from the discussion today?
I'm hoping to be able to tell our side of the story from the inside out. So many times, flat earthers are depicted from the outside in, and I want to be able to share with others empirical data that proves the earth is not what we've been told.
I have changed my mind at some point about this topic.
So when I was 12 years old, I went to space camp, and I met Alan B. Shepard.
Oh, nice.
Yep, and I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to be the first woman to walk the moon.
Oh.
So for me, I'm a glober. I went into this completely wanting it to be true. And my husband told me, you know, he saw this thing about the fake moon landing. And I was like, you're absolutely crazy. There's no way that the moon landings are fake. And then in 2010, my husband was killed. And so I never really developed that until around 2014 when Flat Earth kind of came back up. And that little voice inside my head said, remember the fake moon landings? Remember when that was brought to my attention? And then I started really critically analyzing that. And I would say, you know, just looking at that evidence, if they can lie about the moon landings, they can certainly lie about pictures and satellites and other things. And so I started going down that rabbit hole of studying. So that was my influence from my husband.
How many lies does it take to make a liar, right?
And being ridiculed for being inquisitive is pretty tough on us. I wouldn't say that I've changed my mind because my mind isn't set. NASA is solely designed to change my mind. It is, from its inception, from its discovery, has been a television program, it's been a space program to sell us on something that they've yet to actually show us. Show me a globe spinning with clouds and a moon, show me home, and I think I could shut up easily. I think I could shut up.
The timing of your conversions is interesting to me. 20 years ago, the flat earth world was tiny and insignificant. Enter the advent of the internet, YouTube, online discussion groups. all these new available places where you could find information about everything.
This is true that the evidence as you looked were not robust evidence. And the sources you used, they were not reliable sources again. But my problem is that, and I like you guys that you are very skeptical, but at the same time, you are not skeptical about your belief system.
You
That
keep
should
going
have come
back.
first.
You think that that's my foundation for why I believe the earth is flat. And I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Okay.
I have evidence that proves it's flat.
What type of
proves
evidence,
it's not
you
a
know?
ball.
What type of
Curvature, I
evidence?
We're
just-
being misled. We're being deliberately misled by mainstream
Now,
media.
what's your evidence you're
We see
thinking?
too far. We see too far. We should not be able to see. I live in Dana Point.
Okay,
I can see San Clemente Island, which is 60 miles away.
so what?
What do you mean, so what?
No, I'm
It's
on the
1,100
beach. I'm
feet
on the
tall.
beach.
It is
What do you mean by
tall.
so what?
I'm on the
But-
beach.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Can you see a ship which is going?
We're
Oh
not
yeah,
talking
let's talk
that.
about the ship that goes
Yes,
over the curvature
okay.
of the earth. I love
So-
it. So science has said that when I see a ship go out of my field of view, it's going over the curvature of the earth, correct?
Yes.
But then I bring my P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in.
Not
So
all
is
the
it
time.
going over the curvature of the
No,
earth
you
or
can't.
not?
Absolutely.
Oh, not all the
No, you
time?
can't.
Not all the
No,
time?
you don't see all the ship. The bottom part of the ship
Yes.
is hidden by the
At that
curvature.
distance, you shouldn't see the top
At
of it
all.
either.
If the Earth were truly flat, there would be really hardly any limit. You'd be able to stand at the top of the Empire State Building and look towards Chicago, a mere 1,000 miles away, and see the lights of Chicago at night.
No,
Why wouldn't
no, because you have an atmospheric disturbance.
Very thick.
I've been
Water
into
alone.
astronomy since I was 10.
It's faulty logic. It's completely faulty logic.
Alright guys, I'm going to end the video there. If you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn bell notifications on. And also comment down below of what you guys thought of the video. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next video.